right, welcome to Rivals on the Pitch, episode 2. Thank you for joining us again. Hopefully you tuned into episode 1. Today's topics, we'll be doing some pre-season transfer. It's been kind of a slow season, so that kind of gives us the opportunity to kind of dive in a little bit deeper into who we're signing, some signing rumors. We all like those, and we all have some wishful thinking. A few hot topics for the preseason, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into what we'll be getting into in this podcast. My name is Alan. I am your fellow Spurs supporter, and here with me is my friend Fabrizio.
Hello.
And unfortunately, he's an Arsenal fan, but hey, we make do.
No, it's not easy being one of the best in the league.
Best at what? I mean, best at coming second. Cause
wow.
You know what they say: if you ain't first, you're last. So we're all last.
It is it's bright and early. So please bear with my groggy morning voice. We're here to have some fun. We're here to discuss some good rumors, some good confirmed transfers, and yeah.
Let's get started. Do you think this is a slow transfer window, or are we just anxious? We're so anxious for the season.
Have we been spoiled?
Or, we're so close to reaching some of our goals in previous season that we're just anxious to see new signings this year.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it has been very slow. Obviously, you have to kind of expect that it's gonna be like that, considering we've had the Copa America and the Euros coming on right in the middle of the summer. So you expect that it's going to be slow. Players are out with their countries, with their nations. Not much business gets done because they're concentrated on their national hopes. So, however, we've had this happen before with the World Cup, and as players start doing their thing and they get some attention, and all of a sudden, contracts are flying around. So by the time these tournaments are over, we'll usually have some pretty good transfers happening. But at the moment, there has not been much. So it's a little bit of both, I think. I am very impatient for the season to start. We don't have much. We have maybe 2 weeks now, almost 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think you're right with these tournaments going on. I think that's kind of slows down the process. But it's always exciting seeing these players kind of rise through these tournaments. You see them get signed. I know watching Colombia, a big name was Richard Rios, our midfielder. I think he plays in the Brazilian league, and he was linked with Man United.
I gotta ask, just because I started getting serious about watching Arsenal once Arsenal signed Alexis Sanchez. And, being a Chilean, that was like a super, super proud moment, super cool moment to feel like, your two worlds are coming together. So how does it feel to have a national team player that you root for, that you support, play for another team? And not just another team, but almost like a close contender to your hopes and aspirations. For example, I know Luis Diaz over at Liverpool, and now having possibly another one go over to Man United, teams that you're going to be battling it out with this season. Is it like a weird feeling to see them succeed?
Oh yeah, I mean, even with Luis Diaz, you want to root for him because you have that national pride. A fellow Colombian, mi gente. You want to be happy for them and you want to cheer them on, but at the same time, you can't be scoring goals against us. With the way the Premier League set up, based off of different sports in America, you don't have playoffs. So every game counts. And if he's scoring every game, your chances of rising to the top of the table, it gets a little bit more difficult. When it's international break, I'm all in on, Colombia and all the Colombian players. But when it's match day and it's, match week and he's wearing that Liverpool red, then I can't. And it's funny because you hear people talking smack about, your players, of the same nationality, and you kind of want to defend them, but at the same time, they're playing for Liverpool. So you're like, I'll let it go. If you see him getting jumped and he's wearing a Liverpool jersey, I'm not stepping in. But if he's getting jumped wearing a Colombian jersey, that's a different story.
Right,
I'm jumping in. It's like with you, with Alexis Sanchez going to Man U. How was that?
Yeah, that was, I think that hurt on so many levels. One, because like I said, that kind of sparked my fandom for Arsenal. So it hurt to see him leave. One of the best players Arsenal had in many, many years. yeah, I think he suited the club so well because Arsene Wenger was known for getting these players who were kind of creative and they enjoyed having that freedom that he gave them, and he fit right in. So he just seemed like the Arsenal player. And two, I was so happy to have him. So to have him leave was a painful moment, regardless of where he would have went. But then having to see him go to Manchester United, which at the time was doing a little better than they kind of are now, but still like in that same area where we were just top four was kind of like the main goal. And yeah, in the last season he was with us, we missed out on top four, and then seeing him go to a team where I don't know, just it's another painful one. Yeah, it's definitely weird. I kind of watched a few Manchester United games after he went over as a Chilean. You kind of want to support and you want to see like how they do, but it's tough because he got a lot of criticism for not holding up that level that he had over at Arsenal. So you get hurt, but at the same time, I'm like, if he would have done better, I don't think I would have enjoyed that.
No, you're right. You would have been like, why did you leave? And it's funny because we lost Davison Sanchez at the beginning of last summer transfer. It's funny because he was going to the Turkish league, I was like, okay, whatever. But then he left and I was like, kind of sucks. I was like, I wish I had it was nice having a fellow Colombian on the team. Not that I'm in the dressing room myself, but it was just good to support.
Yeah, yeah. It feels like, one of your own.
Right. And then two, I think I don't know if I was being biased but I felt like he would fit the Ange system a little bit better than Eric Dyer, even though Eric Dyer went over and
He's on to better things.
balled out a little bit. Yeah, he fell forward. I don't know
Yeah.
how that happens, but I guess they got the best out of him.
I
And
mean, he wasn't a bad player. I think he's
he wasn't. I think it didn't help that a lot of these players, they just get really rusty on the bench, and you get them off the bench and they haven't had playtime. And because he made the English squad, 2 years ago.
he did.
So he's talented. He just didn't fit what we needed, and I think sitting on the bench for so long just didn't help him.
It's funny. I did a tour of Wembley Stadium, and they actually have one of his signed cleats as memorabilia in the stadium. And I remember the tour guide mentioning, and he was a Spurs fan as well. And he said, I don't know why or how we have this. Like, well, what the reason is? He's certainly not the best player ever, but we have his cleat.
That's weird.
But yeah, all right. So let's get started. So, do you want to start with Tottenham and who are your ins and outs?
Yeah, I got a few ins. One thing that Postecoglou did mention, it's kind of a little bit of a hope, a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel of this transfer window. He was quoted saying that their targets from the beginning of the transfer window haven't changed. They're just being patient. I hope that's true. Hopefully, that's what we're doing. We're being patient. Hopefully there's a big name that we're waiting for, trying to get things right. But it's just better to get them in as soon as possible. With Postecoglou's system, the way the high pace, I feel like they got to get in there, start training. Hopefully minimize all that injuries that can happen. You don't want to get into the season running 100%, all the time, fast intensity, and pull a hammy, and now you're done for 3 months, or it's just an ongoing injury.
I was watching Arsenal Fan TV and they mentioned one of Arsenal's signing, and we're about 2.5 weeks out, and they said, if anybody that is signed right now, it's not likely that they're going to be starting first game. So that's the risk that you run by not signing your players early. Once you start, if you drop a couple games at the beginning, you have those growing pains. It hurts you in the end.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Doing all that business towards the tail end of the season, or the tail end of the transfer window. You won 2-3 games. You're like, oh well, it's only 3 games. But then when you're come May, April, and you need those games, you're running out of games. And those 3 points that you could have gotten from the first game of the season, they could be very important.
Yeah.
For us, our window, I haven't been impressed with it. I like it. I'm not disappointed, but there needs to be more. If the window was to end today, I would not be a happy camper. Let's say that. But we've got Timo Werner back on loan. A lot of Spurs community, a lot of social media accounts, for some reason, they just don't like the signing. I see it a little differently. Yeah, Timo Werner as a player himself If we were signing him for a large amount, yeah, that wouldn't work for me either. But he's on a loan, and it's not a we're not paying much for him right now. And for what we're paying, and for the amount of talent that's out there, when you compare him to other players, it just financially it makes sense. I think he gives us depth. He gives us depth on the wings and on the center forward. Sure, he's got the reputation, especially coming with what he did in Chelsea. Not the greatest finisher, but he's got some speed, and I think that opens up a lot, especially when you have Brandon Johnson, on the opposite end. And what we saw a lot was just those cut in goals, passing it across the box, and hopefully someone's there to knock it in. But I don't mind it. I like it. I don't know if we're gonna sign him. I think a lot depends on what he does between game one and the January transfer window. If he has a lot of goal contributions then, and if he's doing what we brought him in to do, we might sign him. But I think it's just a year loan.
Yeah, I mean, he's got pace, and yeah, you want to have those kind of players on your, at least on your bench. You want someone who can make a difference. If that's not something that you have already on the field, or when you get tired legs, you want to bring someone on who can kind of create a little bit of havoc to tired defenders. So I agree. I mean, it's not my first choice, probably not my second choice, but he's definitely a good player to have, a good card to have, and play it when you need it. I don't see him being like some big name player that's gonna change your season around. But mid season, towards the end, then you need players who can kind of spark up stale game. Then I think he's somebody that can definitely make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. He's not that main guy that we want to sign. The build a team around, but depth. I mean, we talked about it last episode. Depth is so important, and season's unpredictable. Especially when you start playing European football, you start all these domestic cups. I mean, last year we had a few tournaments, international tournaments mid-season, so we lost Son, but I don't foresee that obviously those are over with. This season's gonna be different. It just goes to show how important depth is for sure. The next one we have is Archie Gray. This one's an interesting signing. He's the fourth most expensive 18-year-old of all time.
What's the list of the
So
most expensive?
now let me tell you who he's sandwiched between. So Endrick, who just signed, Rodrigo, Vinicius Jr. are the top three, and then it's Archie Gray.
Okay.
And then fifth,
Yes.
Victor Roque, which I know off topic, but Saudi already?
It is just a rumor.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, some players could, and I don't know much about him. I just know he plays for Barcelona. But if someone is injury prone, sometimes they kind of just say, I'll do this more for enjoyment than competition, and that's her life. So I agree. I think it's you could have better careers than that, but sometimes money talks.
Yeah. And so that kind of brings me to like where I'm a little, I wouldn't say hesitant to make the signing. It's more hesitant for the amount of money. Because just 18-year-old, there's so much uncertainty. But he has had 44 appearances with Leeds. I didn't watch him. I can't say I watched championship football too much. Everything I've seen, everything I've read, it looks good. And then with preseason, preseason's preseason. We can't go off too much off of it, especially because he was playing center back for some reason. But you can see his physicality. He doesn't. You would think an 18-year-old's a little, get pushed around a little bit more, but no, he's a pretty big unit. He's a pretty big kid. He got awarded Young Player of the Year, which I found out that Dele Alli had won the same award. So I think that's a good thing.
High hopes.
Yeah, and I think it's smart for the price tag. It makes this a different conversation, but I think it's smart for teams to kind of start targeting young players at the championship level, especially if they're winning young player of the year, or they're just showing a lot of goal contributions. Good defensively, they're physically ready. If they have a lot of appearances, why not take the chance? Because you might just be getting yourself a gem. while they're cheap.
Yeah.
He, on the other hand, was not cheap. So I think we need him to. He doesn't have to be a player that turns around the club today, but I think he needs to be a star in the future. But I think he's good to go this season. I think he's ready to play a good amount. Maybe not start games, but definitely be that off the bench sub.
Yeah, for sure.
Just now, I mean, just a few days ago, I guess we did business in Korea. We got a Young Min Hyuk, an 18-year-old from the K League.
Interesting.
He's still in high school, so he's considered like semi-pro, pro. I'm not sure, but he won't be joining us until January. But from the highlights I've seen, he looks pretty good. I don't want to diss any leagues, but there's a difference between playing in K League, League One, the Bundesliga, the Premier League. Not just as far as in talent, but there's the style of play changes as well. I mean, Korea has had a good amount of players come out recently. Good amount of talent. They've always had talent, but just now it seems like it's even more now.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we landed ourselves a gem, and he looks like he might be Son's. Not because of nationality, but kind of the role he plays. He might be Son's successor, and who knows? Maybe Son was the one that kind of pointed him out and said, "Hey, this guy played with me in the international team, and a player to look into." So
Yeah, for sure.
Lucas Bergvall. I kind of tried watching him during the preseason. I haven't gotten to watch all of it, but I've been watching. I watched the highlights, but I kind of want to see what happens between those highlights. I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Seeing what he does off the ball, and on the ball. But Archie Gray and Lucas and even Yuk, they play midfield. Yuk, the Korean, he kind of plays more in the wing, but he has been in the midfield. So we have a lot of, we're kind of packing this midfield a lot, and it worries me because we're kind of neglecting the other positions. But when I go back to what Ange had said, that we're being patient, I wonder if we're just holding out for, a big name. And later on in this episode, we'll discuss who I want, my wishful thinking of who comes into the club, who's wearing, our jersey and our badge. But
He could also be kind of downplaying. Sometimes you want to keep things calm. You want to say you're in control, so that come into the season, if you don't get that player, it's like, oh well, it wasn't the right time, and then you miss out on somebody. But you never know. I hope it doesn't work out for Tottenham. I'm honestly really curious with the whole full season under his belt, what Postecoglou's going to be able to pull out. I think this season's definitely going to be more competitive, coming from multiple different teams. So we'll see.
Yeah, managing expectations is definitely a big thing that he does pretty well. But I'm still going to be mad. They've always come out with 4 18-year-olds. Not saying that they can't. I mean, they're better than me, at 18 than I ever will be. But come on, like, we need some vets out there. We need someone experienced to, show them, help them, coach them, and mentor these younger players, and make sure that their talent isn't being wasted out there.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, maybe he's just building for the future.
Yeah, real quick, do you know this new homegrown talent rule?
No, I have not heard of this.
Because they're 18, and I think they have to be under 20 if they're with the team for X amount of years without being on loan. I think they're considered homegrown talent. And if that's the case, all 3 of these guys would be considered homegrown talent. Lucas, Yuk, and Gray, even though they're Scottish, Korean, and Swedish. That helps us a lot, because then now we don't have to worry about, playing someone of a different, lower caliber, because he's English.
Right.
Yeah, I was wondering if you knew that.
No, I probably not something to worry about much on the Arsenal side. We're usually always kind of bringing up players, Saka, Emil Smith Rowe. But yeah, good to keep in mind.
You mean you guys don't have a daycare like we do? I can't do that to them. Hopefully, I want them to pan out, and I think we've had some good recruitments these last few transfer windows. Maybe the last 3 transfer windows. I think we've had a good eye for talent. So, fingers crossed.
Yeah, got some big younger players over in Manchester United as well. Obviously, Kobe Mainu has been one of their most highlighted players from the past season. He played very well for England in the Euros. And now they just signed Lenny Euro, 18-year-old center back. He started last night against Arsenal. Looked decent. I can't say much with one showing, and they're hyping him up like he's the next Saliba, and I think they gotta take it down a notch.
Well, yeah, I think he limped off, didn't he? I never want to wish any injuries on players because that's their profession. That's how they earn a living. But I mean, hopefully he's all right. But just don't play
Yeah, I mean,
until January.
yeah. Like I said, hopefully he's all right. I don't want to wish injury on any player. I actually do want him to start playing. I'm assuming that he'll be a starter for Manchester United. They had a crazy amount of rotation in that back line with lots of injuries, having to play Evans. Lots of knowledge for being an older player, but it also cost the body a lot. So I think he's going to be a first choice for Eric Ten Hag. He's been talked up a lot, so I think there's going to be a little bit of a realization that the Premier League is definitely something different. Okay, so yeah, so while we're on the topic, let's just move over to Manchester United here. I can't. I'm not surprised to have seen them release Rafael Varane, but at the same time, he got a lot of criticism, suffered a lot of injuries. I don't think that's regardless of who it is that you're playing. I don't think that's one of the things that hurt Manchester United the most. So I understand why they let him go. I was surprised to see him. I think he just signed with Como, Italian team, and I really thought that he could have been a good backup for any team. Experienced, great defender, but that's something you can have on your bench if he is injury prone. That's somebody you could kind of count on for a cup games, maybe. Throwing an extra defender at the last couple of minutes on the game when you're holding on to a 1-0 lead. It's honestly surprised.
Yeah, I think it's important to have those vets. They know how to manage game. They know how to manage themselves, so they don't have to start towards the tail end and have them manage the game, manage the players around them. And you're right, he has that in him, and I think he probably just didn't want to. I think I'm sure part of it was his decision. Como, for some reason, they've been making a lot of good moves this transfer window. I don't know what they're building out there, but they got a few vets going out there. Who knows? Maybe it's just a little nice retirement home for them and finish the season playing by the beach.
Yeah, it is a beautiful town. I think a lot of players are almost considering that as a getaway where close to retirement you get to play for more for enjoyment than you do for the pressure of being at the top, the highest level.
Right. Yeah, I think this wasn't a full Man United decision. I think he probably had a bit of a say in it too. But then you look at what they're probably trying to clear some money. I just think they've had bad business these last few windows. I think they've tried to bring in names that would sell jerseys rather than produce on the field.
Yeah, I think they were kind of throwing that cash around for a couple years, a couple seasons now, and it hasn't panned out for them. Big names, big players, big targets for a lot of players, and they were the kind of the first in line just because they had the money, they had the history. Big team, but at the end of the day, they were not playing well. They were disorganized. Obviously, a lot of front office issues, owner issues. Disagreements, and it didn't pan out. So let's take a look. They've actually done, in my opinion, they've done pretty well to get rid of a lot of, unfortunately, great talent. A lot of talent that was expected to kind of be bigger end result than it was. Obviously, Rafael Varane came over, experienced player, that didn't work out. They've also gotten rid of Anthony Martial. He's a player that before coming to Man U and then in that first season, he people were saying that he was going to win the Ballon d'Or. So very unfortunate case there as well. Donny van de Beek signed over from Ajax after having that wonderful season with Eric Ten Hag, getting to the semifinals of the Champions League.
He left for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, all these players that they almost have that current Chelsea treatment where big money, big expectation, not working so well on the pitch. That's the thing. You try to get them early. you pay a little less than what the finished product would be, but then at the end of the day, they still need that development. They need to be paired up with these senior, experienced players, and yeah, it's very unfortunate to see these kinds of names not pan out. They also just transferred out Mason Greenwood. Obviously, that's a sensitive topic there. I think best thing that they could have done was to just cut loose. I know he had a lot of potential, but reputation, that kind of thing doesn't
Yeah,
isn't forgotten.
being a professional athlete doesn't excuse you from stuff like that. But
Yeah.
you know, a name I heard the other day, and completely forgot about him, and I feel like it's just a testament that if you go to Man U, you might be drowning your career. Mason Mount. He just kind of just left my mind, and then I saw him the other day. I was like, oh,
Yeah. He played for Chelsea, somewhat of a loved player. Went over to Manchester United, and then he had a big injury. I think he ended up playing a couple games, if not one, towards the end of the season for them. But yeah, he missed out a whole season. And now, from the commentators last night in the game against Arsenal, they mentioned that they're still trying to figure out his best position. So, very talented player. It's an odd one.
all right, might be one of those other ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he might get lost in the mix there. But we'll see. He's got a whole season to kind of prove himself again. Hopefully, injury free, and I guess we'll see. We'll see what comes out of him. They also signed Xerxes recently, Manchester United. So I don't remember seeing him last night. I think it's very fresh. So we'll see if they grab anybody else. So yeah, I'll move on to Arsenal. Arsenal, the same thing. I think this was another season where we were able to offload a little bit. Move on a few players that were kind of not considered to be part of the squad anymore. I think they played a couple games. El Neni, who has been, I think he was the last player that played under Arsene Wenger. He was the last one. Great leader, humble guy, fantastic rotational player. Never complained about not getting enough minutes, but he was always there when you needed him. We have moved on Sambi Lokonga back out on loan. He was playing for Luton Town last season, did fantastic in that kind of 6-8 role. I still don't, I think he did great. I still don't think he's kind of the player that we're looking for. We're actually looking for that same exact type of player, but I don't think he can fill the shoes of a Thomas Partey at the moment.
So same player, just higher ceiling.
Yeah, I think we need someone who, at this point, I think he should have shown it already. But yeah, we also moved on Cedric Suarez, right back, Portugal international. But unfortunately, Arteta's looking for a different kind of player. Ben White has been phenomenal last season. Last 2 seasons, can play center back, right back, and I believe he has played defensive midfielder as well. So he's just a totally versatile player, and I think that's mostly what Arteta's looking for. At the moment, we confirmed the official move of David Raya, which, as I mentioned before, at first that signing was not one that we were really considering. Ramsdale had been so solid for Arsenal. Obviously, a few blunders, but it happens to most keepers. And David Raya had his few blunders this past season too. But overall, I think he did well. I think he was about as good as Ramsdale, and I think he exceeded him a little bit more on a few technical requirements over Arteta. And I think he's probably more like the guy that Arteta wanted. Signing Ramsdale was also a shocker when we first got him, even though we were looking for a goalkeeper. I don't think it was the kind of name that Arsenal was looking for, and he did fantastic. But at the end of the day, from what I've heard, is that David Raya was always Arteta's first target for a goal, and he finally got him, and that's why he's randomly just been picked up and then moved our first goalkeeper out of the way. And so we've also moved on Nuno Tavares, left back, had a lot of potential, great attacking, wing back, left back, but was lacking some of that defensive qualities. As of now, I believe it hasn't been confirmed by the club yet, but it is basically official that we have signed Calafiori, who's a defender who probably will be playing left back, center back, hybrid. Looks good. I watched all the highlight videos. I will tell you first.
All the flashy YouTube videos.
Yeah, looks like a good player. Young as well. Looking forward to see him play. I'm hoping he gets in at least one preseason game, though. I don't think we play Liverpool on Wednesday. I don't think he's going to make that one. So Maybe sometimes teams will have behind closed doors kind of friendlies. We'll see. We have signed another goalkeeper as well. Probably academy player. Probably most likely going to be going out on loan. Not much else going on. We have that, and obviously we have a lot of places where we need to fill starters and the rotational players.
Yeah, I think it was good. A good signing with Raya to come and kind of compete with Ramsdale. Fortunate for you guys, unfortunate for us, is that you guys didn't really miss a beat, especially in that position, in the goalkeeper position. Which I love Hugo, but it got to a point where you're like, yeah, this is costing us games. This is we need to upgrade here. But is Ramsdale expected to be out?
I don't know because I think realistically, if he were to go, we would need to have a top quality second place goalkeeper. And I have not heard of any links. I have heard that the keeper that we just signed is probably going out on loan. I honestly don't see him going the season. It's getting very late in the season. And if someone's looking for a first choice goalkeeper, I think you probably would have wanted to sign them by now. I think he might stay and then try to fight for his spot. I think unfortunately, I think it's done. I think Reyes is the number one, but you never know. You need a top keeper to keep the first one honest. I think you can also see how important a second keeper is to the season with Manchester City. Their first choice keeper injured during the Tottenham game at the very end of the season. That was kind of like a make or break moment. Their second keeper comes in, blocks probably the closest chance Tottenham had to tying the game against City, which probably would have given the title to Arsenal. Yeah, he's a keeper that I'm surprised he hasn't moved on as well. But like I said, sometimes you need to have two starting keepers in your team.
Yeah, I think you guys are in a good position because if you can maintain him, that'll be perfect. But trying to attract a top talent goalkeeper to be like, hey, we want you to play backup. You're not the starting goalkeeper, but you're the backup. I think that's very hard to convince someone, especially someone that wants to be playing, first team
Yeah,
football. It's going to be hard. But if you already have him in house, if you already have him, on the team, it's probably easier to keep him on than try to finding that talent. Because I'm look at the Man U goalkeeper. He's out there, free agent, and
yeah, yep.
he doesn't want anything but starting 11.
That's very true. That's actually someone who I thought would be a good person for Arsenal if Ramsdale did leave. But yeah, like you said, he wants first team football. I think he deserves it. But at the same time, I think teams now, when you're fighting that top of the league, when you're fighting Champions League, and you absolutely need to have those cups as your backup to show some sort of supremacy. Look at Manchester United at the end of the day. Not a great season, the lowest in their standards. Still end up with an FA Cup, and all of a sudden it's like their season has been saved. So cups, as much as you want to rotate your players, you still want to have the best of the best to end up with something at the end of the season. I think that salvages an average or below average season.
Yeah, it's important to be able to rotate your squad and still be competitive. Because if not, then with the amount of games that are being played nowadays, it's you're gonna end up falling short.
Exactly. Out of the overall Premier League, some big name signings. I saw that Onana has moved on to Aston Villa. Fantastic player for Everton. The past season, he was being looked at from the Arsenal side as well, but he's officially moved on to Aston Villa. What's your thoughts on this one?
I like him. I was actually hoping we were linked with him pretty early at the end of the window back in like May, June. And I was hoping for I think that was a player that you could bring in and he just makes an immediate impact. I wish he didn't go to Austin Villa because I think that's who we're competing with right now. I think it helps, especially with the amount of talent that they lost.
Douglas Luiz?
Yeah.
Yeah, big player to have left. I think I heard a rumor before all this was confirmed that Douglas Luiz was going to Juventus, and then they were looking to set Weston McKennie over to Aston Villa. Great player, international player as well. At least for the starter for U.S. men's national team. Not equivalent in my opinion not equivalent. I think Weston McKennie is very versatile player. He can play multiple different positions. He's kind of typical American player where he kind of just gives it his all for an entire game. He'll do whatever you ask him to do. But Douglas Luiz was such a master of his craft, playing that midfield role, deep lying midfielder, lots of flair. I just unfortunately I don't think it was an equivalent trade. But as MLS sending him out, they needed a big name player to fill in, and then you're right. I think Onana is that type of player that can start right away. He can hit the ground running. Also knows his role very well. Good pickup.
Yeah, as far as a defensive midfielder, yeah, I think that would be my first choice. I mean, Bissouma. Now that Hoiberg left, we have Bissouma, and I'm not sure who would be his backup, but I think at this point, Onana I would have taken his spot, and Bissouma would have been on the bench coming in late in the games, or however Postecoglou wants to set that up.
Yeah, like I said, same thing as the whole keeper scenario. Someone like Bissouma played really great football at the beginning of the season, then he kind of fell off. If you have someone like Onana, he's gonna take over immediately at that point, or that's someone that's gonna keep someone like Bissouma playing at a better level when he knows one slip up can cost you starting the next game, and if that person who takes over your spot plays well, it's hard to get back in.
And then another guy we looked into, or at least in the January transfer we were linked with, was Lloyd Kelly. I wouldn't have mind signing him. We ended up with Dragusin, the Romanian, but having someone like Lloyd Kelly, maybe another, a fourth center back. Well, he probably would have pushed Dragusin a little further down the pecking order, but that would have given us some good depth in that center back role. He could have played that almost like the third, fourth center back, because I know towards the end of the season, Mickey Van de Ven was kind of playing that left back. That would have been a good. I think that he's not the best. I won't say not the best, but not the flashiest or the most in demand center back. But I think he would have been a good player. He's Premier League proven. But he's going to Newcastle, so that's a good pickup for them.
Yeah, I gotta say I do feel for Dragusin a little bit. He was already verbal agreement with Tottenham when Bayern Munich came to see if they could grab him, and he stayed loyal to Tottenham. And then I honestly I didn't see him starting so much last season. And I got you don't assume that anybody who goes to Bayern Munich is going to be a first team player unless they're a big name. But if he's sitting on Bayern Munich bench or the Tottenham bench, I would think that you would want to sit on the Bayern Munich bench.
Why? No, he chose Spurs for a reason. He believes in the project. I don't think he was told he was going to be starting, but I think towards the end of the season, we did see how he probably be a good indicator of what's to come this season, how he's going to be used. I think he'll get more face time, more play time this season, and not just in in domestic cups or in European football. I think it's going to be actual Premier League appearances. I think he's going to show up. I expect Postecoglou to switch it up just a little bit, because it's like I said, it's what's the point of him sitting on, he's a young guy. I think he's like 22, 23, but why sit him on the bench? And you only get better at football by playing it.
So Michael Olise, a big name also to have left the Premier League. The Crystal Palace player has signed for Bayern Munich, and that was a great pickup. Crystal Palace, unfortunately, great team of great talent that lacks the financial base to stability to kind of maintain a lot of this talent. Michael Olise, Bayern Munich, I'm sure they got. I don't know what the money was, but I'm sure they got a decent penny. I don't think they could have held on to him. And if you want somebody to take up your players, it's Real Madrid or Bayern Munich. So they are still holding on to Eze. I don't think that's the expected outcome. He's been rumored with almost every single club. I know Arsenal are in for that winger type to be a backup to Bukayo Saka. So I know he's been rumored to Tottenham, Barcelona, who don't have the money for it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see where he ends up.
Yeah, he's been rumored a lot, but I've also heard that Crystal Palace was going to only let one of those two go. So with him already in Bayern Munich, if the rumors are true, then Eze is Not going to go anywhere. He would be for us. I think he'll be better suited in almost that 10 role, and as winger, I mean, I think he'll split those roles pretty good. But
It's hard for me to believe that he'll stay. At the same time, look at Wilfred Saha. How many years he spent at Crystal Palace, being on the doorstep of Arsenal and then so many other teams. And at the end of the day, he ran out his basically his whole career and ends up in Turkey.
I feel like he was someone that was every every transfer window. He was, where's he gonna go? Where's he gonna go? Who's gonna sign him? And surprisingly, I feel like no one really came around. Maybe he was just asking for too much, or maybe Crystal Palace was asking for too much.
I remember back in the day, Falcao. He was on the up after playing in Portugal, and there were so many teams after him. And I heard a story that he couldn't make up his mind on where to go. And at the end of the day, a lot of the teams had already kind of filled the spot that they were looking to fill with him, and that's why he ended up in
Monaco.
at Monaco. And then
Yeah.
over to Atletico Madrid, and there's two different things that could happen. One, that the player will be asking for certain things. You'll ask to, in the contract you can put in how much playing time you're expected to play at a minimum, the money, and two, that your club could also expect a certain amount of money to be paid for your transfer. Yeah, so
Transfer feed.
there's a lot of things that can hold up a move, but at the end of the day, those things can make or break your status as a footballer. So let's hope he makes the right decision and comes to Arsenal, and we'll see where we go from there.
If he wants to be second best, he go to Arsenal. If he wants to be first, come to Spurs.
Yeah, first and the fourth.
We're winning this season. We're taking the. It's coming home.
Okay. So any hot rumors?
Not so much. It's more of outgoing rumors. I mean, now it's kind of confirmed. Brian Gill going to Girona, who they've done a lot of movement this season too. Emerson Morale going to AC Milan kind of frees up that right wing back. I think it's good because Spence apparently is doing pretty good in preseason, so I kind of want to see him. I kind of want to see a resurgence of him and see what he has to bring. But other than that, no rumors. It's just a typical like, who should we sign? Nothing has come out. Nothing that I can hold on to and pray and hope for. It's just
hope the business gets done.
Been quiet. Yeah,
whatever it is, just get it done.
The sooner the better.
Yeah, unfortunately, on Arsenal's side here, we have to offload a couple players. I know Eddie Nketiah has been rumored to go to Marseille. Emile Smith Rowe, I think almost confirmed now, his move to Fulham.
That's right.
Sad to see him go, but happy to watch him go and probably get some serious game time. Yep. And Reece Nelson, also another one that has been rumored to be on the out, hoping to get a decent amount for him. I know Emile Smith Rowe, we're looking at 30, 35, and Nketiah probably about the same, and Reece Nelson. That should give us enough pocket change to bag a serious transfer in. But right now we just have two rumors, probably the same type of player, same position. Fabian Ruiz, who played for Spain in the Euros. He plays for PSG currently. They're looking to offload him. He played 6 games in the Euros, 2 goals, 2 assists, four contributions in a 7-game tournament. That's fantastic. Clearly not the type of player that PSG are utilizing to their advantage. So I think it would be a wise move for him to come to Arsenal and do his thing. Mikel Merino, another one. I think he was the backup to Rodri in the Spanish squad. Played all seven games. Midfielder, 1 goal. So we'll see. I think if we were to get at least one of those, that would be a great addition to a midfield that probably looking to strengthen with Thomas Partey having suffered injuries mid-season, and then having essentially no backup to Declan Rice is we definitely need one more person to fill that out. Not that Kai Havertz has kind of taken that role of that false 9 player. But we'll see what happens.
I hope nothing happens. I hope you guys just stay the same. And
if we stay the same, I mean, we got second place with this same squad. So
yeah, we tried that with Pochettino, and we were at the Champions League final and nothing changed, and after that it was just been downhill. So I hope y'all have the same experience. the transfer window, I think with all these financial fair play stuff going on, especially, towards, mid-season of last season, Everton getting all their point deducted and, people just investigating those books. I feel like that's kind of affected the transfer window. I think people don't want to do business that might put them in a situation where they're losing points. So I feel like everyone kind of slowed their rolls and we're just like, you know what, let's do this smart. Let's do this. Let's be patient. Let's work the books. Let's figure out, let's offload before we can bring anyone in.
Yeah.
I know we did it last time. Has your one is more of a who would you want, but one wishful thinking, one player you would sign by the end of this transfer window. Who would that one guy be?
It's hard to say. I feel like, I think we're still looking for that midfield player to kind of fill out that trio. Once Thomas Partey, looks like we're holding on to him. He's a great player to have, but moving on, I think we got to look towards the future. So I think we're missing that type of player, which I think we're closing in on. But especially if Eddie Nketiah were to move on, Kai Havertz being a false nine player, and Gabriel Jesus also being a filler. If we aren't to get anybody to fill in for Bukayo Saka, I think we're still looking for that striker. I think many teams are, and funny enough, I think
Yeah.
many teams are functioning without that typical nine striker, and I think it is due to the inflation of the prices of these players. I mean, Oshiman, Isaac, so many number nines coming out of Italy, where obviously they can't maintain these high players, but they're requesting that big, like 90 million dollars, 90 million euros. It's just too much, and a lot of players, a lot of teams are functioning without it. And City is the only one who can afford it. And at the time, they didn't even need Haaland, but they were the only ones who could probably afford that move.
The market it's just been inflating and increasing, and it's kind of, I think it hit that little bit of a plateau and it's like, okay, we can't sustain this, and I think numbers are dropping. I mean, even Ivan Toney, I've heard his stock has kind of fallen, his price has fallen, in which, I mean, good for us but bad for us because now we're falling into more competition. I mean, Spurs have been in a good financial position where we could spend the money, we just haven't, but we could. And I think that kind of put us in a position where, like, well, we could probably outbid a few people, but
Yeah, I think no real names, but it's almost like if you can't get the big real name signing, you might as well go for a proven one in the league. So it would be super cool to get someone like Ollie Watkins over to Arsenal, but I don't think Aston Villa is going to let him go with Champions League now. I don't think he's going to want to give up that loyalty to the team where he's done so well, and now have his chance with a team like that to give it a go. Solanke is another option, almost like
I was gonna say Solanke.
yeah, second in line to Ollie Watkins for one of the better strikers in the league. Typical number nine, tall, kind of pacey, lethal strike. So I would love to have either one of those. Obviously, Ollie Watkins, Arsenal fan. I think it would have been the better target, but I just don't think he's going to leave. What about for Tottenham?
I have 4 names, 2 of which wouldn't make, not that they don't make sense, but might not be exactly what we need. Nico Williams. I mean, we've been linked with Neto from Wolves, but man, I've been wanting Nico. We thought he was coming to us towards the end of the season, and especially now with what he did in the Euros, I think that's a little more unattainable now. Eze was another one, but I don't think he's what we need. It's probably who we want, but I don't know if that's what we need. Isaac, but Newcastle's not going to let him go. I wish. But if we were to sign, we've been signing a lot of 18-year-olds. And if we sign all these 18-year-olds, young talent, and Isaac, I think that would be completely fine with me. I'll be happy with the transfer window. But more realistically, I think we might look into Tony. I won't be surprised if Tony, I don't like his attitude. I feel like I don't know too much about him, attitude wise, or his work ethic. And, we just know what we see. But hey, if he gets us the title, he's allowed to say anything he wants.
Yeah, he's definitely a wild card there off the pitch. So yeah, great player, but you kind of have to watch him, babysit.
Yeah, that's why Isaac would be. He's younger. He'll be with the team for a lot longer. I think Tony would be a 1 or 2 years. I'm pretty sure he he doesn't think much of Spurs. I feel like he's set his mind on Real Madrid, Barcelona, these other bigger teams. All right, we're going to wrap it up.
All right, we are officially at time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Second episode of Rivals on the Pitch. We have a lot of good stuff coming up for you. Obviously, we're always going to be covering transfers, rumors, and we'll look into the first couple games of the season. We'll also be rating everybody's home kit, which ones are fantastic, which ones you would wear out, and which ones probably should be forgotten about. We'll also be playing a few games, some fantasy football-like games. We'll also be doing a prediction game, which should be pretty fun. Looking to fill you in on that on the next episode. Thanks again for all your support. Follow us on Instagram and let us know what you want to hear, what you like about the show, and any comments. We can read them out loud. So thanks again. Alan, any last words?
Don't be wearing any ugly jerseys.
All right. Peace out.
Bye. Whoa. All right, ready? One more time. Take 3.